All right, peace and welcome to the culture here. Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being with us this afternoon. Folks, we got a great show for you. First hour, let's talk about education. It is back to school time in America. And let's talk about the issue that many districts are suffering from, which is teacher shortage and so much more. Let's also talk about the fact of test scores being lower for Blacks and Latino students versus other students, how we can help to remedy this issue. At the 4 o'clock mark, folks, I want to have a conversation about privilege. There are a number of wealthy people now that are pushing back on this idea of privilege. And I'm asking the question, is this going to be the end of a long-standing inequality? So we'll have that conversation. And then later, boy, oh boy, the hip-hop world took to social media to talk about DJ Khaled's new song, God Did, featuring Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, and the GOAT himself, Jay-Z. We break down the song, why it's getting so much hype, and most importantly, is this one of the best rap collaborations of the year? We'll have it with our 2 artists. So stay tuned for that and a whole lot more on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome back to the culture. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I'm out here enjoying the wonderful, wonderful weather of sunny California. And folks, I'm very, very excited not just because it's warm out, but because we have a dynamic show for you. Of course, it's Monday, so we got our culture crew in place, folks. We're going to be joined in a moment by the artist, the co-founder of Blackwater Entertainment, a music and production house, B-Fly. We're going to be checking in with her in a few moments. And then we got my man, Jules P., another hip-hop artist, an activist, and just a brother who understands the dynamics of power in the country. We'll be joined by them in a couple of moments. But today, folks, I wanted to have a conversation about what's going on as we are at the beginning of the school year. School districts across the country are welcoming students back in. In some states, students have been back for as early as the past 2 weeks. Other states, the past week. But then most of the states, by this time, school is back in session for across the country. And so now the conversation about what's next, not just after having a pandemic for 2.5 years, what's next? Not just dealing with the already longstanding educational inequalities that continue to happen, but now there is a major, major teacher shortage that districts across the country are trying to respond to, where teachers aren't just not there. They can't fill in the positions. Now, this is an interesting take, folks. Take a look at this. How bad is the teaching shortage? Depends on where you live. This is coming out of the New York Times, and I thought this whole conversation was very interesting. I'm so happy that we can have it today because the New York Times put it out there. And I want to just pull this thing up very quickly, but the New York Times put it out there. The teacher shortage that we have been talking about, and I think a lot of us may be aware of, is not necessarily in schools that are private schools or even charter schools. Most of these schools are schools that are in low to middle income Black and brown neighborhoods, folks. Are you surprised? Because I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Let me share with you a little bit about what New York Times had to say about this issue. Then we're going to bring in our culture crew, B Fly and Jules P. But look at this. They're asking how bad is the teacher shortage? Well, according to the one national survey by Education Week, nearly 3/4 of principals and district officials said this summer that the number of teaching applicants was not enough to fill their open positions. Other surveys released this year have suggested that parents are deeply concerned about staffing and that many more teachers are eyeing the exits. Wow. Wow. And that's not even taken in consideration, folks. That's at the beginning of the year. We're just getting this new school year started. So what will those exits look like? What will be the sentiment at the middle of the year? Once folks get really accustomed to one another and acquainted with one another, should we expect to see more teachers leaving the profession? All right, let me bring in my culture crew, B Fly, co-founder of Blackwater Music Production and Entertainment Company. And also we are joined by Jules P to give us some insight as to get their take on what they're seeing, what we're reading about with this teacher shortage. B Fly, Jules, welcome as always to the culture.
What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? All right, let me hear from you, B Fly, because first and foremost, we always love to hear from you. I've been missing you the past couple of weeks, so I'm happy to have you back on. But B, talk to us about this. I mean, you have a little black boy that's in school. You understand the dynamics of this whole thing. We and I offline have talked about even using that big option of, hey, this public school system's not working out. I'm doing the homeschooling. I'm doing independent study. But what do you make of this concern around teachers not being in the schools right now?
Farajii, this is proof. Like, the public school system has totally eroded. This didn't happen overnight. It's been happening generation by generation, and that's literally where we are. I don't feel comfortable sending my son into public school in this climate, and so we committed to private school along with droves of other parents, and so I think that's just where we are. There's a gross mistrust in the government. Every year, every few months, we're hit with a Columbine, like a mass shooting in schools. Like, teachers are stressed, overly stressed, underpaid. We still have teachers who have to buy school supplies out of their own salary. And these salaries how do you even live on these salaries? How do you raise your own family? So, the public school system has totally eroded. And Farajii, the government did this. Like, this is not the fault of the people. Like, once we started sharing contracts to give food, like, our food contracts come from the same people who cook for our prisons. This is it, and so it's like, when it comes to when it comes to the American public housing, public school system, like the inner city communities are definitely going to get hit hardest.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
to your point, I mean, we've been seeing this, and Jules, I'm not really surprised that we're seeing a shortage in this profession. And here's why I'm not surprised. We act as if we act as if Jules act as if we really care and appreciate teachers as is.
Hmm.
Like we surprised, right? But we don't pay teachers like we pay other professions,
There we go.
right?
But
The support system that the districts, and I'm not saying all districts, but in districts that serve black and brown children, the support system for the teachers is not always there.
hmm
The parents, we beat up on the teachers. We beat up on the teachers. The community beats up on the teachers. We're not as engaged and involved. So this is not a surprise that people come into the profession wanting to make a real change. I think if you're a teacher, you're serious about changing because you're starting at the root with the children. But we act as if we're surprised, or some people say, oh man, this teacher short. People are tired, Jules.
yeah,
People are really tired. Not just and this is not even just, this is before COVID happened.
right.
But COVID just took it up a notch because of everything from homeschooling to virtual learning to mask wearing. All of that just took it to the next level. But what do you make of this? Being the teacher shortage is real right now.
So that's exactly the point. B flops are the best. I mean, we discussed it, a while ago, that the teachers are being underpaid is the root of all evil where it starts. Because again, if I have a profession where I have to go through so much amount of schooling, education to then parlay that to teach to children, have that same education, background, and knowledge, as well as grade my own papers, because again, in these private schools, a lot of them have teachers' aides that are taking care of those responsibilities for them as well. So they're kind of treating them like college classes where you have a professor that's teaching, but they have another understudy that does all the paperwork for them. So the professor just literally goes, does their lesson for their 3 credit hours for the week, and then they, just going back to what they normally do and living life. And that's what we're dealing with the private schools. They're getting that experience young, whereas our public schools in these, urban dominated communities, I mean, let's just go ahead and say it. I mean, that's not, sugarcoat anything, because we all came from these type of schools. I mean, the shortages are real because you're understanding the conditions of the schools first and foremost. How many of our schools in Baltimore City still don't have air conditioning? Okay. So it's just, it's minor things that you just think about that contribute to these issues. And I understand why there's a teacher shortage. And again, the underpaid teachers or the salary of teachers is, to me, the number one cause.
Right, right. So it's the minor things that's causing that start to accumulate over the years, and then it has now gotten to a point it's a major problem.
Right.
Here's what the other piece of this, and Jules and B, check this out. I want to, Keena, let's post the second quote around from the New York Times. Here's why this thing is so important for us to talk about. It says, but while the pandemic has created an urgent search for teachers in some areas, not every district is suffering from shortages. The need for teachers is driven by a demand and supply and a tight job market. Salary matters, and so does location. Well-paying suburban schools can usually attract more candidates. If anything, experts say, the recent pandemic turmoil can be expected to worsen old inequities. It's complex, and it does go back before the pandemic, say Desiree Carver Thomas, who's an analyst with the Learning Policy Institute. She said that schools serving more students, low-income families, bear the brunt of teacher shortages oftentimes. Wow. Wow. So now we're looking at this situation, B, of teacher shortages in black and brown communities, and black and brown students have to suffer the consequences of that.
This is nothing new, Farajii, but here's the part. If Black people have always had to depend on the government, we wouldn't be anywhere. All right. So it's like, if anything, if we learned anything during pandemic, we learned that we have to participate in our children's education. Period. All right. So it's like, so parenting has to, like, parents have to get deeper into parenting. I understand that we've lost a couple seconds in our earth rotation and everybody's demands are still increasing, but we can't let our literal offspring go to the wayside. If you can't afford to go to private school, then you can't afford to be more present in your child's education process, you know? And so it's like we can't just put all of the responsibility of education on that teacher. All right. And so it's like that to me is a main crux of the issue that we experience in the public school dynamic. You know, like we have to get more parent involvement. We have to get more community involvement. If you live next door to a family who works more than they should, and you know that their children need to be enriched a little bit deeper, then our community needs to be able to step in, you know. And so these elements are what have always sustained us through government abuse. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we talk about verbal abuse, we talk about domestic violence. Our government abuses us consistently as Black people, consistently as people of color. And until we get in front of the situation, it's not going to change. Like, you have to be active in the actual education and the rearing of your child. You can't just leave that off to another person. I don't care who that person is, you know. And so that until the community literally steps in, until parents step in and actually do the homework with their children, it's going to erode even further, you know. And
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah,
that not
I would agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, B.
it seems to me like it's the goal, the long-term goal of the government in order to push more into the prison system. They're eating the same food. So it's like, how far is the apple really going to fall from the tree? You know, so if you don't want your child to be a perpetual product of the prison industrial complex, then do homework with your child. Make sure your child is reading every night. 20 minutes a day massive, does does so much for the growing human. You know, 20 minutes reading a day for the adult can totally change the way you look at the world, you know? So it's like until we really get back into self and into family, then the government is just gonna continue to corrode and erode the children. You know, if you don't want that to happen, get more hands-on involved in your child's actual academic life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go to get some. Let's get some thoughts from our online culture crew. Folks, post your comments on our YouTube page as well as our Facebook page, and let's continue to have this conversation about the teacher shortage being so real in America as we start the school year. Shalinda checked in. Shalinda, good to hear from you, sis. You said it's not hard to believe that there's a teacher shortage with the badass kids and with the parents being ready to fight at the drop of a pen. Not only that, being put under a microscope, new jobs pays. Yeah, that's very, very real. There's great scrutiny, a lot of headaches, man. Teachers are, and this year, you know, we've been having a number of conversations, folks, about this very issue. Last week, I had Dr. Lopez, Nadia Lopez on the show. And one of the things is that we have to learn how to become partners with the school. I'm saying us as a family, individuals. As a parent, you should become a partner with your teacher, your son, your daughter, niece, or nephew, with your child's teacher, their homeroom teacher. Get to know them, a partner with the principal. How to become a partner with the school. Get involved. So that way you can start to bring a different dynamic. Because you know what, Jules, the reality is, bro, the reason that private schools and certain charter schools and other independent schools don't suffer the way that public schools suffer is because there's a higher sense of accountability and responsibility to get involved. Whereas the public school, we have been conditioned to believe this is across the board. To B's point, we've been conditioned to believe you just send your child to school, and then let the teachers, the administrators, and all them other folks make all the decisions, and then you bring them back home, and boom, your child is an enlightened, informed, critical thinking person.
Well,
Doesn't work that way.
And it don't work that way.
It's not rotisserie.
That's a great way of saying it, Z. This ain't
No,
it's not rotisserie education. You just
it's not.
pop your child in there. All right, let me give him 8 hours from now. Bing. You are great.
They should be fine, you know. And so it's like, and you know, there's problems on every side of the aisle right now, you know. And so it's like that. This is a call to parents. We have to be better stewards of the future. That's literally what it is. Like we can't parent and still put our immediate desires before the immediate needs of our growing humans. The moment we do that, then you can just kiss your ideal future goodbye, literally, you know? And so it's like we have to be able to do that. We have to hold parents to a higher standard together. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like all of this pressure on the public school system, the pressure of the teachers to be
Yeah,
greater than the parent is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we can't continue that argument. We have to literally turn back into the house. You know, if you have to go to your zip code school, then you have to make your zip code work for you. If
there
you
it
don't
is.
make your code work for you, if you shuck paying taxes, then look at your school. How many tax? What are your what's the tax dollars that we're spending for real? For real. Then I'm not talking about when we go to the mall and we purchase and we pay our sales tax. No, if you're not paying into your community, if you're literally just receiving government assistance, but you aren't paying into the government to actually supply goods for that public school, the chain has been broken. You understand? And so it's like that. And so we're dealing with that in our inner cities. We're not paying into the tax system, but we still expect to get 100% of the benefit out of it. It's not
Right.
happening. Pay for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to throw it in there very quickly where schools are facing a shortage. Check this out, folks. According to the National Education Association, schools are facing a shortage of 300,000 teachers and staff across the U.S. This is this is the country's largest teachers union. 300,000 in South Carolina, folks. Check this out. New teachers are being offered a $10,000 signing bonus. In rural Texas, some districts will only send kids to school for 4 days a week. This is what we're seeing with the educational system. This is what we're seeing. So we're seeing some real stuff happening. And guess what, folks? We have to get involved. Dujima Boutique, check this out. You posted paraphrasing Reagan, students go to school and come out progressive. In other words, they come out with a fresh outlook on life and policies. The goal is to have a dumber down populace. Do you believe that to be the case, Jules?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so crazy to that point that you made earlier too, and B Fly talked about as well. So like, let's focus on this other aspect of it. So if we're short teachers and staff, you know what else we're gonna be short of? After school programs for your kids. So now there's no more clubs and organizations for them to join. There's no sports and athletics because your coaches are also your teachers. So if your teachers are already getting stressed out trying to handle the workload of having more students and more classes, now your sports programs and different things like that are going to fail and take a step back. So now you have less opportunity for your kids. So now they're only going to school and going home. There's no after study programs. There's no clubs and organizations to join. There's no different type of avenues for them to get involved, like student government or different type of activities like that. It's just it's going to affect everything. It's a domino effect. So the less staff you have, the less teachers you have, now the less opportunities the kids are open to access to outside of just going to school. So again, when it comes to now, it's time to graduate. We're going over student service learning hours. They ain't got them because they couldn't. They didn't. It's not their fault, but they didn't have the staff in place to help their child gain these different type of avenues to get these different type of programs and hours.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to just share with and Keenan, let's do this final quote before we take our next pause. Here's what the big challenge for struggling districts are. The challenge for struggling district is to cover positions in a way that not only fills seats, but also serves students. Say Tequila Brownie, who is the chief executive of TNP Consulting Services for districts on staffing and student achievement. She said, quote, everybody right now is just talking about, frankly, warm bodies. The quality of teachers still matters. You never will get to quality if you don't get it to if you don't get to quantity first. And that's where we're looking at.
Right.
We want to talk about warm bodies. I'm trying to think, okay, how do we make sure that it's a qualitative person that's standing in front of your child? Because I just don't want no average Joe standing in front of my son or my daughter trying to teach them something. Like this is a side, if this is not your thing, then don't try to make it your thing. You know what I'm saying? Be be serious about it, because it's just too much on the line.
Yeah,
it's too much on the line.
And I'm still meeting people who are teaching because they don't have anything else better to do. That's a problem.
And I ain't with that. I am not with that.
Like, I still get into that argument with that young 20-year-old who doesn't have anything else better to do. So, I will teach. Like, that's such an issue. Like, if teaching is not your ministry, take your ass to McDonald's until you figure out what it is. You understand? You know what I'm saying? My God, like, you don't have to default teach. It doesn't even pay enough to default teach. You know what I mean? So it's like, if this is not your ministry, then yes, you do need to get out. So I'm not necessarily upset at the shortage. What needs to happen is you do need to bring these numbers down so the administrators actually put more money in the pot. Okay? So we actually up the qualifications for what teaching even looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So until that happens, then let them all quit, because if they're afraid to teach, if they're afraid to be in the classroom, they need to get someplace else where they can be safe and they can be strong. Because if you're afraid, you can't protect my child. If you're afraid, then you can't educate my child, right? So let the fearful teachers go ahead. Let them go. The same way we need people who do not actually want to be nurses, the ones who actually don't want to be medical techs, do not go into the medical industry. Go do nails somewhere. You understand?
Right.
Lashes somewhere. Get deeper. We need more women literally occupying our beauty industries again, because they've been co-opted by men. Like, we need to, all Americans need to literally do a self-check and ask yourself, am I really serving my ministry with my 40 hours? Or do I need training to get better, to get deeper into my passion, my career, so I can actually show up and serve the world in a healthy way? I don't need anyone servicing me who doesn't want to do their job.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Look, we gotta take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation about education, but there's another element to this, not just teacher shortage. Let's talk about test scores. There is a conversation, or rather an argument, that now education has been dumbed down so much. We're just teaching students to take tests, not teaching to empower, not teaching to uplift, not teaching to enlighten. So we'll have a conversation about testing, as there's the argument that tests are not designed for Black and brown students. What do you think? Post your comments. Do you believe that these standardized tests that we all had to take when we were in school are designed for Black and brown students? That's a question, and we'll have that discussion up next. So stay with us. That's coming right at you here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Man, oh man, having a great conversation talking about education as we are back in school. They're starting today. A lot of schools have now opened their doors for in-person learning. And so many people are wondering what is going to be the end result? What is going to be the grade that we will give to school districts across the country when it comes to educating our children? Now, another element of this conversation, not just about the teacher shortage, but it's also about the motive, the intent of how we are teaching and what we're teaching. Are we teaching to prepare students for life, or are we teaching just to prepare students for a test? Now, the conversation about testing has gone very, very interesting in many different interesting spaces, including touching on race issues, where people, whether they are teachers, staff members, administrators, community members, or just parents, and some students say that these standardized tests are not designed for Latino and Black students, that Latino and Black students do not, quote unquote, test well. Well, here's one op-ed said this, when you look at it, lower Black and Latino pass rates don't make a test racist. Here's what the writer said in that op-ed. Take a look, folks. Now there is a change.org petition circulating saying just that, based on the claim that the association's clinical exam is biased because from 2018 to 2021, 84%, take a look, 84% of white test takers passed it the first time, while only 45% of Black test takers and 65% of Latino test takers did. These numbers are grossly disproportionate and demonstrate a failure in the exam's design, the petition states, adding that an assertion that the problem lies with test takers only reinforces the racism inherent to the test. The petitioners add that the exam is administered only in English and its questions are based on survey responses from a disproportionately white pool of social workers. Wow. Let's bring in our culture crew, Jules P, B-Fly, back into the conversation with this. And folks, you know, when you're out and about in the streets, sometimes you get all types of extra noise, so excuse the noise in the background. But let's talk about the issue of test taking, folks. Are we in a space, do you believe that the tests are not designed for Black and Latino students? And Jules, I'll start with you on that one.
100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000%, yes. I just feel like that's an issue I used to always face when I was taking tests in school. So if you think about this, like you would know that, let's say for instance, you're taking a class, a general class, whatever, and you know it's Monday, and the teacher tells you you're having a test on Friday. So one, we're not taught how to study in our communities. That's first and foremost. But two, when we take the study into our own hand, you know, that's how you use your notes you took from class, or you know, use the textbook that you have. Then by the time you get the test on Friday, the questions are worded in such a profound and state manner that have nothing to do with what you actually learned or discuss, but it has the answers there that you talk about in class. But the question is set so, the bar is set so high in the question is to confuse you of what you just thought about. I just studied for this. Why am I not getting these test answers right? Like, why am I not understanding what I'm reading? Why are these questions so constructed, so difficult based off of what I'm learning, instead of just giving me the A and B? All right, we know 1 + 1 = 2. Why you're trying to add all these extra letters, numbers, and different things in there to confuse me on the question? So that's something I used to deal with a lot in school. Was like, I can study, quote unquote, for a test, but then by the time I get to taking the test, they're using so much different language in the question that we did not discuss in class. And it's like, oh, you know, if you're not, you know, if you don't understand, you know, you can stay after for code class. Like, no, like I understand because I'm studying the material. The way these questions are worded, like you're trying to make us fail. Like that's why I used to feel like in high school all the time. I say, I feel like you're trying to make us fail these tests, because like it should not be that difficult when you're asking cut and dry questions based off the curriculum that we studied during the course of the week.
Hey, B, what's your take on this? Do you believe that the pass rate indicated whether a test is racist or not?
You know, Farajii, this has been an ongoing conversation my entire life, I feel like. You know, test taking starts way before you take that test. All right. And so and it is challenging for any student to shift their focus into learning when the home environment does not put learning first. All right. And so, you know, I I did not have issues when it came to the standardized test. None of my necessary peers did either. But the focus of our life during that period of time was so wrapped in education. So when you are reading every day, writing every day, mathing every day, understanding sociology every day, as you age, I find that these standard tests are actually beneath our real intelligence, all right? And so, but when you don't set that young human up in a thriving environment to actually be that sponge, you're not going to be able to sponge, you know? And so that, to me, why there seems to be such a disproportionate injustice when it comes to the standardized testing, because the stress level that's happening in the average household in the inner city is different from the stress level in your suburb when it comes to that 12-year-old, that 8-year-old, that 14-year-old who is humaning and learning and sponging. You understand? So to me, if you want to really go in and cure the disease, then you need to make sure that the home is properly fed. So if we have a home that, you know, doesn't eat nutritious on a regular basis, doesn't value water, so that child is now drinking juice as a majority beverage, soda as a majority beverage, and never actually hydrates the body, how is that child supposed to sponge properly? Okay. So I don't think that these tests are so above the Black and brown intellectual space. I don't. But I do believe that the Black and brown home is too stressed to put that child's human experience first, the way it happens in a suburban home, you know, and that's where the true issue like really is, you know. So when standardized testing was an issue in the 90s, when we looked at this in the 90s, we saw a definite connection to drug use. We saw a definite connection to poverty and what happens to that child when they are in the throes, in the clenches of poverty. You know, how do you, as a collective, rise through that? You know, you don't. Every once in a while, you can have a rose that grows from concrete, but that is not the normal. It's not the norm for a rose to grow. So most of our children are not going to be growing in that system because they're not getting fertilized properly at home or on the streets or anywhere else. So, you know, so you can't just talk about test scores without opening up that book and see where parents are valuing education. What's going on is you cannot study when there's a TV on. You can't. So if that's what's happening, then you're not going to retain the information. You know, and if your parent, if the adult who is supposed to be leading you does not turn the TV off and give you a book and sit there with you so you can actually understand what conjugating a verb is, then you aren't going to get it. So you're going to be an adult not knowing the difference between your twos or your theirs, and you're going to blame society for that. But no, you have to blame the parent that brought you into this world at a certain point. And so that's what this is, you know. I don't think the tests are above our intellectual scope at all. But but the parents aren't taking these basics seriously enough.
And I think to that point, once you start having a conversation about tests, B, you start to ask the question, should we use a new metric by which we measure student success and educational excellence, right? Because there is a growing number of voices that are pushing back on that. We're seeing colleges who are saying, look, we don't care about certain standardized test scores, right, Jules? You know what I mean? Harvard, and I'm talking about your top tier colleges, Harvard, Yale, and other schools are pushing back on this because the culture is changing about testing itself as being the only metric to determine if your student is going to be able to matriculate to the next level. Let's go to a couple of folks that are checking in, and I appreciate all of y'all for sharing your thoughts. You don't like my music. You posted, and I like this. You say kids learn differently, but we squeeze them all into this cookie cutter education system that values rote learning above all else. Right. Right. Everybody don't learn the same way.
That's the point I'm making.
And we need to understand that. And the school systems in general is trying to teach everybody on just a visual or auditory and not much as a kinesthetic learner, or just try to incorporate it all. Jules, what's your take?
So that's exactly the point I'm making, because again, so to be scenario, like I was in the suburbs growing up, I was raised in a home rocker focus, and I still can take tests. I mean, to me, that part does not matter, because it's not saying that I'm not intelligent enough or my intellect is not good enough for standardized testing, but my strength was writing. So when it came to English, when it came to different things that I had to write papers on, I aced those. But when it came to standardized tests, when it came to multiple choice, when it came to certain wording and test questions, I cannot get it together. And that's literally the way that the test was being given and the way that I was able to learn and receive. It's not saying in the class I'm not understanding what I'm not soaping up what I learned. I'm not sponging all information. I'm not being able to regurgitate the stuff I'm talking about, because again, if my mother's coming home and she says, what happened in class today, I can regurgitate everything that was said in the class. I can regurgitate everything I just looked at when I studied my paper. But then when it came to that test, it's like, well, why are you getting a C? Well, why are you getting a D? When you just sat there and gave me the information, it's like, I can't, it's the wording in the test that I cannot get past. And I'm like, that's not no fault to my own. I think that is also, and I've been saying it since high school years, that's more on the way to give standardized tests. When I got to college, I did not have those issues, because the way that they cultivate the test and the way and sometimes you had class that only gave you a midterm and a final anyway. So it's like, it's certain ways of, making grades in college that you don't even need standardized testing. But when it came to your middle schools and your high schools, most definitely those are the two levels of school that give the standardized testing the most. That's where I struggle with the most. And it's like, all right, it's not saying I'm not educated. Clearly, I can talk, I can think, I can, do my own research. I can do all of that. But I feel like the test that I was given in those schools, in Baltimore County school systems, in my suburban home, in my nice raised house with me and my mother, I couldn't pass.
And that's exactly why this conversation needs to be had. Because look, I didn't test well either, Jules and B. I ain't test well. I know I didn't test well. But guess what? That doesn't mean that my intelligence wasn't there. It just means that I just didn't test well in that shape and form. Now, I'm talking about on those standardized tests, But even us, as part of our culture, I think even as Black people, we should push back on this as well, because we always use the same metric. Just like your mother did, Jules. And I'm sure, B, you probably heard the same thing. Like I heard the same thing. It's like we constantly was told and jammed into our head, oh, you gotta be this, you gotta be that. And now as grown adults, we're starting to see like, wait a minute. My son or my daughter, and Jules, I know you don't have any children yet, but you work with young people, you got nieces and nephews. So you already know, like when I talk to my son, he might not test well, but I ask him about the concept. His view of the concept is much different. Mm-hmm. He gets to the same answer, but how he get there is different from what they was expecting on the test. And I'm like, okay. I mean, you came to the same answer. you just process it and think on a different path. And that's okay. And we got to make sure that, and I'm saying we as the black community, I think we should just be careful about chastising our children from thinking the way that, a certain way.
Right.
Because that will take away their ability to critically think.
But that's
if your son and your daughter, is an auditory learner, but you trying to get them to learn visually, and you jamming that there in your head, or they're a hands-on kinesthetic learner, and you trying to get them in the audit. You got to know your child. That way you can defend your child when you approaching the schools and on talking. You can work on it. My son is hands-on. He needs that hands-on.
Right. And like
you could tell him 1,000 times and he'll have a billion questions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's hands-on. He needs to see it. He needs to hold it. He needs to interact with it. He's hands-on.
Right.
Let's go to another conversation. Let's go to another comment before we take our next pause here. My man Willie, you said, look, I believe the failure is on the school itself. If you have students from a well-resourced school taking the same test as students from an underfunded school, you'll get these results. That's true. That's true. But I think we still don't need to teach to prepare students for a test. I still think that there's something fundamentally and inherently wrong about that, B. You know, I think Willie is right. But the bigger question is, well, what kind of person do you want to produce to come out of the system? Do you want somebody that's just thinking one way, or you want somebody who is able to move along? Check this out. And I'm going to let you answer that on that, B, because a lot of people, my man Damon said it. And who else said it? Let me check the comments. Who else said it? Melvin. Everybody is bringing up good times. Melvin, you said, anyone remember the good time episode when Florida and James had to go to the school concerning Michael's test scores? Still going on. Damon, Melvin, yo, good times? That was like 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
That was like 50 years ago. You mean to tell me we still have the same problem that was shown on a television show from damn near 50 years ago?
And it was based off what's going on in
and
that
we still suffering from the same issue. B, go ahead. You got that.
I mean, you know, it's as Jules let us know, there are different types of learning, you know, and parents and teachers have to be able to understand that there's different types of learning. All right. Now these standardized tests, you know, open up X amount of funding, all right, for these schools and for these districts. If it wasn't for these quote unquote standardized tests, you wouldn't be able to shop appropriately for your school. All right. Every school gets a rating as a result of these standardized tests. All right. And so teachers and parents have to be complicit in understanding the type of learner you have, so you can support that type of learning, so you still get what you need to get at the end, you know. And so it's like, if we're taking this back to good times, then the only commonality there is that we're still talking about how you educate yourself when you're Black and poor, all right? And so that, in the middle of integration, is such a problem. We would not have had this issue if we stayed within our community, stayed within our schooling, and we didn't leave our independent schools in order to go to the white public schools, you know? So it's kind of, it's super disheartening to be in this conversation still, because, you know, we have two ways to go. We either go into the public schools or we go into the private schools. And that is basically what it is now as a result of integration. Like, let's just be honest, you know? And the more parents want their children to be white adjacent, we're gonna go through it, you know? And so pandemic taught us the value of community. If you really have beef with that public school, and you really can't afford to go private, then I expect you to homeschool. I expect you to link with a community, and I expect you to wrap that community around that child, so you're not creating a perpetual complaint on the head of that child. You know,
Right.
you can't. Don't give me food and then complain about my plate whole time. If you don't want to eat it, then go somewhere else. Plant your own. Get a seed, grow it. You understand? But until that happens, we're literally just biting the hand that feeds. And if we did not vote 50 years ago to integrate, then would we have this issue right now? Chances are we wouldn't. So this is the pie that you chose to eat from, America. Are you fully?
Right. 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 Let me get one more. Let me get a couple of more comments in as folks are checking in. Truth is power. You said these teachers aren't trained to teach our black children, and then they wonder why they fall behind. It's a cultural difference from where they grow up and where our child grows up. Yeah. And that's an ongoing bridge that we need to, ongoing gap that needs to be bridged there. Truth is power. We know that most of the teachers in the country are white women. So you have white women, younger white women, middle-aged white women, teaching black children in a number of subjects and topics. That's why the call for black men is black men only make up about 2% of the teaching of teachers in the country. So we definitely need to see more black men. And according to recent data, if your child has a black male teacher, by the time they get into third grade, their chances of going to college actually exponentially grows. That's powerful. So black men need to be present. We understand that. But yeah, there is a cultural difference. And the way you balance that out is that we got to be cultured. We got to be cultured. I mean, hey, look, Jules, you know, I've known you for a long time. And one of the things that you've personally experienced, I know, is that if your mom didn't know, she gonna put you around some people that do know.
Exactly.
About everything from being a young black man to money, to music, to community activism. I mean, she gave you the space. She's like, I don't know all this stuff. So therefore, I'm going to expose you to people and opportunities that's going to help fill in the gaps. And I think that's the space that we got to be in right now.
Right.
But those cultural differences, you know, we got to maybe put it on the teachers. Hey, look, you teaching young black people. As parents, my son's teacher, she's a young white woman. But I have conversations. I'm coming in the joint with locks and shit, you know what I mean? We coming in there. I wore my little shirt talking about black is king, and you know what I'm saying? I want you to know exactly, like, my son is coming from a household that celebrates blackness.
Mm-hmm.
So speak on that though, Jules.
So, and that's exactly the point. So I'm glad you brought that up about the teachers, African-American teachers by third grade. I'm sitting here literally thinking about elementary school. So second grade, Miss Hopper, she was black. Third grade, Miss Blackstone, he was black. Fourth grade, Mr. Flowers, he was black. Fifth grade, Mr. Roseboro, he was black. And look where it cultivated me, because that putting that into my mind at a young age, seeing blackness, seeing black empowered, seeing black educated, allowed me to go into the tracks in life. So that's funny that you said that. Like, I never even thought of that. That could be something that translates to something to this day. But from second grade to fifth grade, I had all black teachers. About the whole test taking thing, I feel like it got lazy with Scantrons. The reason I said it got lazy when they invented that Scantron mess is because, again, it's only one answer right. And like you said, when you have your child who's able to explain something a totally different way, we got to update with the times. When you're going anywhere in the United States right now, when you go on your iPhone and you go into your map app, they give you 3 different ways to get somewhere, not just one. So if they're giving you 3 different ways, that means there's more than one answer to get to the destination you have to get to. That's the same thing we need to relay and test, because your child doesn't have to do it the way that you figure it out. But if they still get around to that point that they're trying to get and unpack, then they still got the answer right.
Facts. Absolutely. Look, we got to take a quick pause. We're going to switch gears. When we come forward, folks, let's have a conversation about privilege. Man, we got to talk about it. But I'm asking this question: are the wealthy in this country now starting to wake up to this idea of privilege and pushing back? I'm going to share with you what 2 wealthy men have to say about their privilege in the world. We'll have that conversation. Then later, let's talk about it, folks. DJ Khaled put out a masterpiece of a song called God Dead, featuring Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and Rick Ross. Man, so many elements of the song that has to be decoded. And more importantly, does this song live up to the hype? I'm going to let y'all figure that out. All right, so those conversations are coming up next in the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
There's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. If you have not checked this out, welcome to all of our new watchers and our online culture crew that continue to make this show happen. You guys are the heartbeat of the show, so we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us in the conversation. First hour, we had to cover a little bit about the issue of education, talking about everything from the teacher shortage to standardized tests. If you missed that first hour, definitely go back on the replay and check it out. Also, support us here at Black Star Network as we are working our way to becoming a 24-hour streaming platform, a platform where you'll see Black content, having conversations about Black issues and topics like never before. And we need your full support, folks. You see Brother Roland pitching it. I'm going to just add to it. Your support is everything for Black Star Network. So make sure you support us financially. Make sure you support us by sharing the content and so much more. But go check us out on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, let's have a conversation about something I think a lot of us tend to talk about, but not really understanding the real dynamics of it and the multifaceted element of this issue of privilege. Now, we talk about white privilege. We talk about male privilege, but now can we talk about class privilege? Can we talk about the fact that wealthy people are pushing back on this idea of privilege? Here's why I wanted to have this conversation. Because Shaquille O'Neal, it was revealed in an interview that he did over the weekend, where he said that his children need 2 degrees to access his $400 million fortune. 2 degrees. Listen, this is what he said on a recent interview. He said, in order to get my cheese, you have to present me with 2 degrees. I didn't know Shaquille O'Neal could rap. Okay, Shaq. He said, I just keep them motivated. I'm teaching about generational wealth right now. I tell them all the time, we don't need another NBA player in the house. If you want to play, I can help you get there. But I would rather see a doctor, dentist, hedge fund guy, a veterinarian, or a world traveler. Wow. Here's the irony. Shaquille O'Neal's son, Sharif O'Neal, plays in the G League. He played in the summer for the LA Lakers, Shaq's former team. But I think he now got a contract with the G League. But this is very, very interesting. Now, here's another person that talks about this, and I want to get your take on this before we go to our culture crew online and on to our culture crew panel, B-Fly and my man Jules P. Tom Brady. Tom Brady, who we all know is a NFL superstar. Many call him the GOAT, one of the greatest of all time. 7 Super Bowl rings. He said in an interview some time ago, he said, we have people that clean for us. We have people that make our food. We have people that drive us to the airport if we need that. We get off a plane, and there are people. He said, we get off a plane, there's people waiting there for us, and we get ushered in. That's my kids' reality, which is the hard part to say, guys, this is not the way reality really is. What can we do about that? I think we can try to create experiences that are more along the lines of what most kids go through, even though I still have experiences that a lot of kids never do have. Wow. That's interesting. All right, let's bring in B-Fly and my man Jules P. privilege. Is the privilege being challenged by wealthy people? And here's the thing. Here's my add-on question with that, B and Jules. If the idea of privilege is being challenged by wealthy people, do you think that it will change the culture of privilege in this country? Jules, what's your take on that? Shaquille O'Neal and Tom Brady.
I agree with both of them. Ironically, with Shaq's, you have to have 2 degrees to touch my cheese. Yeah, I have that same mindset. If it's the money that I made, yes, I will provide for your needs during your life. But I don't want you to get in the aspect of thinking once that you get to 18 and once you graduate high school that you can just kick back and touch my millions. Now, I want you to work the same way to get to where I'm getting at in life. And 2, I feel like that's also a good thing to teach your children also is, hey, you might create a lane that might make more money than I made. I mean, we all of our goals is to make sure our children go further in life than we do. There shouldn't be an idea of I'm the cap of my family, so nobody should surpass me, so I'm gonna hold everybody down. No, the idea is for you to go further than me. So I feel like that's what he's teaching when he's telling his children. These are the different things and avenues you can do. Yeah, Sharif, you can play in the NBA. I mean, I got people that can hook you up and connect some blah, blah, like that. But also there's a career after the NBA that you have to focus on. A sports career is only usually, right now, 5 years in NBA, probably 5 years, NFL, probably 3-year lifespan. I mean, depending on how good you are. But I mean, just the average lifespan of an athlete is about 3 to 5 years. So what is your plan after that? What is your plan to focus on outside of that? What business ventures do you want to be a part of? What education, what interests you that you want to get educated in that then take your degree and pursue? I agree with that. With the Tom Brady life, I get that 100% because again, if I work so hard, like imagine us coming from where we came from, we're struggling our whole life, and we finally get to that lifestyle. It's like, damn, like I worked this hard to get here. I don't want my kids to have to go through what I went through to get here, but they also need to understand perspective. Well, it's going to be difficult to teach them that, like you said, when I go to a plane, I get a private jet, and when I get off a jet, there's a car service waiting for me. We get ushered in events. Yeah, that's a different mindset, but that's my lifestyle. As a kid, you're not going to understand that. And that's one thing I also realized too. The younger the children, they're not going to get that. You have to wait till they get older, and then they have to create their own individuality. Same thing going on with Elon Musk and his kids. I mean, there's so much nonsense and things being spewed out into the media, but you kind of hear these same scenarios like, yo, this is my money. Like some of his children not even like, I don't even want your money. I'm going to do something on my own. Like, right. You create your own personality, and that's the thing we got to stop thinking about. Oh, it's just about the kids, just about the kids. Yeah, but when your kids get of age, they're not going to want to do everything you do. They're not going to want to take the same avenues and paths that you took to get to your money. Like that's not what their focus is. Some of your kids will be like, I'm my own person. I don't want to do that. So that's what you're going to have to deal with. So I do agree with both perspectives. And again, for it relating to us, is like, again, if I were, I'm at 33 now. So if I were to come into some wealth in the next 3 to 5 years, when I have a child, again, they're not going to have to go through the same things I went through, but they're also going to have perspective and understanding as well that this is not the lifestyle of everybody. So you can't convince me like, oh, this is how we're living now. It's all good and gravy. Everybody lives like this. Like, no, this is how we're living. This is what me and your mother worked hard to get to, but also understand perspective-wise that there's a journey and other people going through things trying to get to the same aspect, and this is how they get into that. And once you get into your stage of figuring out a life, then you'll figure out what the next stages you want to take to go, whether it be educational route, business route, or whatever.
Hey, and that's a good point. And B, I want to get to this. Is interesting because it's like when we hear wealthy people talking about their struggles, and people slammed Tom Brady when he made this comment initially. People were like, oh, you have a problem because you got money. Boo-hoo, cry me crocodile tears. But, it's and at the end of the day, like at least he's admitting to the fact that, look, I know I got money. I know I got privilege. My children live a privileged life. And it's like, as culturally, we all say we want to be wealthy. We all say we want to have financial security and be able to have generational wealth. But then on the flip side of it, it's like people, when you do talk about your wealth, then people get mad at you. Damn, man, that's messed up. You got that much money. Oh, that's your kid's reality, not mine. And it's like, bro, I'm just telling you what my reality is. I'm not saying that whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the reality my children are living up to. So how do you reconcile these two like spaces right now? And do you think that wealthy people are challenging privilege right now?
No, I think they just talking about the money. I think this is just another way to talk about the money. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, anyone wealthy, not wealthy, knows that it is declassé to discuss your wealth in public. All right. So now we're not going to discuss my direct wealth. We're going to discuss the wealth that I'm going to give to my child, not even when I die. Okay. But while
Right.
I'm still alive and when my kid, no, we're going to discuss that for the meeting. No, 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 no. That has nothing to do with confronting privilege. That has everything to do with the patriarchal ego. We're not talking about women. We're talking about men holding this little leash for their child, for their male heir to just like dangle this money and move the line back even further. You know, so it's like, are we talking about white Tom Brady or black Tom Brady? Because there's two, right?
White Tom Brady or black Tom Brady?
Okay, so I just listen. You know I'm not sporty. Okay, so because isn't there a black too? But we're talking about. Hold on. See, the Shaquille situation, all right, is heartbreaking to me because we're dealing with someone. And correct me if I'm wrong. All right, but are we dealing with the first generation wealthy person?
Who?
All right,
You
Shaquille.
talking about Shaq?
Shaq.
Yeah,
Now,
Shaq. You remember Shaq? Shaq, look, let me just break it down very quickly just to give people some context. Shaq, he said that one of his most embarrassing moments is that when his son asked him to help him create a resume, he didn't know how to do it because he never had to apply for a job.
So,
you know what I'm saying? Shaq just went to the league. You know what I'm saying? Like he had stuff done for him. You know, so I'm talking about that level of privilege, and of course, Shaq is a black man. So we're talking about that level of privilege.
But when you're basically illiterate, all right, and are able to run fast and still get to the 1%, all righty, you better do something with your child to make sure your child knows more than your fluke ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be clear, all right? But are we going to? But to put this next level metrics, all right? You have to have 2 degrees in order to jump through my financial hoop in my lifetime type shit is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, this man is a first generation in his family. So if anything, like there should be more grace when it comes to his heirs to figure their shit out. All right, just for real. And so I don't believe that Tom has the same issue as Shaq. All right. If you don't want your child to grow up out of touch, then you need to be every year, every 3 months, then you need to have your child serve somebody else. So if your child, I don't care how affluent or poor your child is, if your child isn't in the process of serving another human at least once a year, you're going to have an out of touch human who's going to be in the world adulting in a toxic ass way. All righty, let's just be clear. So if Tom doesn't have his little Jane and Susie and Patrick up in somebody's community service, giving food to the homeless, painting somebody's HUD house. Like if you're not doing that, then all you're just talking shit about your money.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Abusing your child. You know what I'm saying? Like that's child abuse because now the child has to deal with the weight and the ramifications of the world knowing that I should have access to wealth, but I still have to figure my shit out. That's a whole next mind fuck, all right, to take that privileged human through who does not even have a process of giving back to humanity. So if you are raising your child on the other side of the tracks, I expect you to bring your child to the other side at least once a month so you can actually have a well-raised human. But if that's not happening, then you're really just talking about your wealth to the media while trolling your child.
Well,
Parents
here's
do.
the
You know what I'm saying?
here's the
That's a troll. You know what I'm saying?
right, and I can understand that, but I think Tom Brady, like to his credit, like I said, he's first admitting to the fact that he recognizes this. He knows that it's going to impact his children in some way, shape, or form. So he's like, what can we do about it? Right. And so my response is the same as yours. Put them in spaces where they have to serve other people. Put them in spaces where they understand the struggle of other people. Right. But here's the thing about that. That has to be a value of yours, of the parent, whoever the parent is. It could be Tom Brady, it could be Shaq, it could be whoever. If the value of the parent is we getting this money and F everybody else, or the value of the parent is, look, even though I was blessed to have this money, I'm going to make sure that we still stay connected to the community. In every city in this country, and nobody could tell me different about this. In every major city, even smaller city where Black people are found, the struggle of Black people is always present.
Always.
Every city. Whether you're in Los Angeles, whether you're in Baltimore, whether you're in Boston, wherever you are, you can always see Black people struggling. And it's unfortunate as hell, but the reality is that. And in the midst of that struggle is an opportunity to serve. You may say, okay, all right, well, I ain't going into the Black community. Fine. But you can always find struggle because of where we are in this country, the disparity of wealth in this country. So my point is that you can always find a way to give back. And that has to be a value that you got to ingrain in your children. Now, we don't have to talk about millionaires like Tom Brady and Shaq. What about some of us who make only 6 figures, right? You make 6 figures, you move out to the suburbs, and you'll never connect you with your people. You don't bring your children around no more. You know what I'm saying? And your children, they don't grow up in a city. They might grow up in a county. They grow up in the suburbs of some place. And they don't know struggle. They don't know how to stay connected. And we can be found guilty in trying to create a space. Like some of us, we hate the hood. And Jules and B, y'all know how, when you look at, if you talk to wealthy Black people, we have a real disdain, a real hatred for the place that we came from. And once we were afforded opportunities, whether it's school, a better career path, whatever, we told ourselves, you ain't got to tell me or tell us, but you told yourself, when I leave here, I ain't never coming back. These Negroes ain't gonna never see me.
Black people are the only people who are in some way like pressured to staying in the mud. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody else pressured to stay in the mud. Like, the goal, if you in the mud, born in the mud, is to get out of the mud, right? You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, when you're Black, you got to keep one toe in the mud. Nah. You know what I'm saying? No. You know what I'm saying? You can still rise and you can still create affluence and you can still human and give to the next person. You can raise a human to actually give a fuck about other humans. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is possible. You know, aside from how much money that child has access to, you know? And so it's like but let's just be honest, like there's a moral compass that has dissolved in our country, for reals. And this isn't overnight. You know, we were allowed to like vote prayer out of school and everybody fine with it. And so it's like every generation from that, you know, it's like the people are getting less connected to the fact that there's a soul inside of every human form. every human form. And if you aren't able to connect with that soul, you're the problem. It's not the other souls, you know? And so it's like when we parent in a way that disconnects the human from the soul, then yeah, you're going to have perpetual problems. This is what it is. And so I did, you know, in a real, in I guess our Black fantasy, we are immune from such inhumane ways. You know, Black people are so connected to our morality. We discuss it in public with our enemies. We hold each other to a certain level of give back, certain level of accountability. We hold the Black family up to this light and examine it in ways that no other culture does. And if they do it alone. You know, so it's like so we expect Shaq, honestly, to have given his child several paths to an affluent life. If he hasn't, and this child is just going to default to his brawn, like that's an issue, you know. But this is probably why Shawnee left him.
Right. Right.
You know.
Hey.
Oh.
Right. Jules, what's your take? And then we're gonna get to some audience comments.
All right, so a couple of things, because you know me, I'm like, I guess I'm like outside looking in. So one, I don't take everything as face value either. So for the Tom Brady comment, let's not act like came from wealth. He was the 199th pick of the NFL draft, which means 198 people went in front of him, which means the people that are getting drafted in the first 5 slots, you get the most money. So he had to work harder than 198 people in front of him to get where he's at now. So let's stop taking what's said at face value and pay attention to the work. Let's not confuse what's said on blogs and posts and whatever as to what's going on in his actual household. The man had to work where he got from. You don't think he's teaching that to his children too? Like that's just my obvious. I don't see it like, oh, I'll work hard to get here. Now y'all got everything. Go out there and just be rich like me. Like, no, I don't see that. I feel like that man behind closed doors with him and his wife by taking care of that family, teaching them to work because, hey, your father did not come from the #1 pick. I wasn't the most scouted in college. I had to work to get here. People that are drafted 199 don't even make it off the practice squad, let alone to the actual playing field of the NFL. And now this man is in year, 22, 23, whatever. Like, that's just look at the work. Like, I don't, all that talking crap don't mean nothing to me. I pay attention to a person work. Like I always say, actions speak louder than words to me. So you might slip up with me. Again, people have faux pas and slip up in conversation all the time. I don't judge you by what you say. I just look, hey, what's the work? What's the work say? What led up to this? All right, let's go to Shaquille O'Neal. I feel like, and I mean, I can probably be in the same line. I feel like if I have the money that he has, I will have the same mindset. That's not to say that I'm not going to set up my child for the future. That's not to say that I'm not going to help and make sure they have all the avenues and things to get into. Because again, we're making it sound like, oh, I'm just holding my money, never giving it to you. I bet you they ain't got to pay for college. I bet you they ain't got to worry about nothing. Your cars. I mean, he was even talking about the cars that you get, like based off of your grades. Like how when Shareef wanted the car, he was like, Shareef wanted a certain type of car. He was like, no, this is what you're working to get. Like you're not going to get that $400,000 car just because I got $400 million. This is the car that you can get, and when you want to get that, you work for that. Like that's still teaching the value. Like that's I'm so confused, and when the messages are being put out there by what they're saying, it's like people have their reactions. I get it, so everybody has an opinion, but I'm still teaching you the value and what I accomplished and what I got financially for you to get to. There's going to be a time where you're going to fail. Everybody that's a businessman, everybody that's a successful person has failures. The best thing about his kids, if they ever have a failure, they have a safety net of a father who's not going to say, oh, damn, well, you failed on your own. Well, effort, it is what it is. No, he's still going to be there to provide you, help you get back on your feet, and then challenge you to get to your next goal. So that's what's being taught. And that's the point I'm making. It's like, I can't judge somebody based off of what they said or how they doing it or how they go about it. Everybody's different. how we feel about it. Me, you, and B-Fly all have 3 different ways of parenting. It don't mean none of us are wrong. It don't mean none of us are the parent experts to begin with. We all have our own ways, but the end goal is the same, to see our child's success. And however they get there in that point is the purpose and end all goal.
And I think to that point, Jules, the fact is Shaquille, Shaq, Tom Brady, whoever it is, they're not saying that they wouldn't support their child if their child make a misstep here or something like that. That's the nature of being a parent. But I think it's important that we have a conversation, because I don't want us to get into a place, and I'm saying us as Black people in this country, we get into a place where we gone, man. We get a little money, we are out. And if we want our children to be an what they say, well-rounded individual that has a heart for humanity, regardless of what financial level you may be at, you got to always remember where you came from.
Right.
Who posted this real quick? I want to share this very quickly as we wrap up this part of the conversation. Karen, you said, DMX said it, don't forget where you came from. Someone may remind you. That's where we are right now. You can't go through any city, any town in this country and not see a struggle of people.
Mm-hmm.
The reminder don't always have to be an aggressive reminder. The reminder can just simply be you driving down the street and you see a man laying on the street. The reminder can simply be somebody asking you for some change outside of your favorite Starbucks. The reminder can simply be when you see somebody's furniture and clothes sitting on a corner because they just got evicted.
Wow.
Those are reminders. I know they reminders for me. Shit. I'll be like, oh boy, man, my heart goes out to them. You know what I'm saying? Because any one of us can be in that position nowadays. Ain't nothing for certain. You know what I mean? In the sense of, like, you might have a great job today, that joint fold tomorrow. We don't know.
Mine happened during the pandemic.
You know what I'm saying? So if you crap on people on your rise to the top, the universe will remind you. The universe will certainly remind you, hey, you're not as big as you thought. Give thanks. Give thanks. All right, look, we got to take another pause. When we come back, let's talk about the hip-hop song that got everybody talking. DJ Khaled's new song, God Did, featuring Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and Rick Ross. Stay with us. That conversation is coming up next here on The Culture.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Want to have a conversation because when there are big cultural moments that happen in our culture of hip hop and R&B, we got to say something. There have been many, many cultural moments, and this one that we're about to talk about certainly fits into those same conversations. So DJ Khaled dropped his album this past Friday called God Did. God Did. The title track features the sounds of Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, I was about to call him Lil Weezy, Lil Wayne, and none other than Jay-Z. Now, folks, if you hadn't had a chance to listen, you might want to give this a good listen. And I have to say, and I want to bring our culture crew back, my man Jules, my sis B Fly, I gotta say, highly impressed by what this track is trying to get across. I got some questions, but I love this song. I love the collaboration. A lot of good things were said throughout this song. So first and foremost, what do y'all think? Oh, and I didn't forget the brother who actually sung the hook. His name is Friday. So what do y'all think of the new song, God Did, and the impact it's going to make on the culture? B Fly, I'm going to start with you real quick, sis.
You know, I really don't foresee any particular impact on the culture, you know, from this particular song outside of it giving people permission to extend past 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you know. I think that is a key element on how to jump outside of certain musical boxes, you know. I think that is very profound. But everyone on this song, including the producer, like they are all top of the game. All right. So there's a lot of media hype about Jay-Z's long ass verse. Over the past few years, you know, he's quick to put out a long ass verse. This ain't the first long ass verse that we've had from Jay-Z. For real.
You said, wait. You said it's a lot of hype over Jay-Z's long ass verse.
Long ass Jay-Z verse in the past couple years. You know what I'm saying? Like he no longer sticks to 16 bars. You know what I'm saying?
It's like 64. It's like 64 bars.
He don't do that. He's like, I'm going to give you a dissertation from my 50-year-old brain, and this is what we're going to do. I'm Baba. I'm a husband. I'm father. So I'm going to sit on my throne of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? I don't sell crack no more. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, yo, nigga, I made it. This is how we express that in the culture. All righty. But I'm here for Rick Ross. Like, straight up. Like, I am totally, I'm impressed by the growth of Rick Ross. You know, I love the way he is maturing in the game. You know, I love it. You can feel it, you know, in his everything. I absolutely, I want more Lil Wayne. I want more Lil Wayne, and I need him to tell us what has been happening. Something's been happening. I'm calling HIPAA. Something's going on, and I want to know more about it before he ain't here to tell me himself. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to know more behind the scenes. You know, like I'm ready for a different sort of reality introspective on their lives. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Outside of,
Gotcha.
so understand what's actually informing their creative energy right now. But this is wonderful. Like, and we all know DJ Khaled. Like he is definitely, he puts God first in everything.
And everything. There it is. Hey, Jules, you got let's give you about 30 seconds for that one. What you think? What do you think? You think this got best rap collabo of the year written on it? Do you think this is the verse like from Jay-Z's verse? And I think all of them got notable verses. Let me just say that. I think what Rick Ross said was notable. I think what Wayne said was just quotable. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is the culture. You know what I'm saying? But of course, Jay just puts his own thing. He talks about a number of things in that piece. What's your take?
We pushing Fenty like fentanyl. All right, listen, bro. All right, so let me, bro. All right, so real quick, let's go. Rick Ross, I agree with B-Fly. The growth of his lyricism is just off the chain. Like, I love Rose. That him leading, and that's how I feel all the time. When you lead off a song of that magnitude, you have to be the strongest. We already know what Hov gonna do. We already know what Wayne gonna do. When you're leading a song of this magnitude, you have to be the strongest. He did that. He succeeded. He set that bar. He set that tone. Lil Wayne, if we want to get the bar breakdown, he basically called all y'all new people his sons, and he had safe sex, so y'all not even really him. Y'all trying to be him, the face tats, the dreadlocks. Y'all, but you're not me, baby. I'm still Wheezy out. You ain't nobody touching my level. That's a no, like, and I agree, B-Fly. Carter 6 is on the way, so we know we're going to get more. All right, Hov. Hov does what he's supposed to do. He not outside often. It usually takes DJ Khaled to get him outside, usually. That's usually the if you look at Jay-Z's features in the last 10 years, it's mostly been DJ Khaled verses. So that's a good relation, a good rapport right there. But the bars he was spitting, when he talk about how many billionaires came from Hov crib, Me Easy and Reed, and they said, oh, Braun's technically a rock boy, so that's 4 technically. Like, bro, like, he just was talking. Like, it's the thing I love about Jay-Z is the talk is so much different than what we listen to. Like how B-Fly said, we finally got a verse that is long as hell. It's a long ass Jay-Z verse, yes, but I'm tired of hearing these 2-minute club songs on everybody's albums. Like, we can still talk. Like, we just got finished listening to Kendrick album a couple weeks ago. Like, we can still talk that talk, and we can still spit, and we can still go at it the hardest and let you know ain't nobody messing with us. And I'm gonna let you know I'm the GOAT and ain't nobody touching me. So, I'm already there with this whole song. This is the collab of the year so far. Like, I know people say don't jump the gun because it's still there. Well, I listened to it all weekend. I kind of sort of try to put it up against other features for the year. I don't. There's close seconds, but right now this is the dominant number one as far as features.
I think this is one of the strongest songs that Khaled and Jay and Wayne and Ross put out together. They've all worked together on different projects, but this is a strong showing, and I think this might go down as hip, collab of the year as well. And I think that this shapes the culture in a sense that it puts out some different messaging around struggle, around triumph. I want to have a second conversation. We don't have time today, but I want to have a second conversation about hip hop and religion and spirituality, because we can at least, I know, B, I know. Because we can liken to hip hop artists to prosperity gospel teachers.
I'm here for it. All righty.
Let me see something here. Hold on.
It's about to happen. It's going down.
My shit.
It's over.
It's going down.
Jules, let's just take over Farajii's show. Yes, I'm here for prosperity gospel. I love it, but I'm a 5%er as well. And right. So, this is all the same, it's the same evolution, and so it makes sense.
I feel like it challenges because people always say, like, with Hov and Jay-Z, with Hov and Beyonce, like the whole Illuminati thing. It's like, but I feel like it challenges it when you're talking about the aspect of God and what the Lord provided for you through your craft. That kind of denounces all the rumors and dispels that, takes on to this aspect of lyricism. When Jay-Z said, these ain't hymns, these ain't songs, these are hymns because I'm him. Like, that's just like, that's what he's giving you the full breakdown of 1, my verse, my repertoire, and 2, relating this to God and the message I'm giving you from the pulpit. Like, he was talking.
I think that it's interesting because we will at one point degrade hip hop for not being spiritual, and then the moment we go spiritual, then the people want to tear it down as if we're sacrilegious. And so, but I do appreciate this new trend of rappers expressing their spirituality
Right.
through music. Like I want to say like it was a good 10, 15 years where that was kind of missing from the overall pulse. And so it's nice to not have it just be limited to the indie music experience.
Right, right. And the fact that it's put on mainstream now, and like that's the point. It's so major because it's like now it's being talked about, and I feel like now we're in a safe space. Where, like you said, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't a safe space to talk about, respecting God, loving God, respecting women. Like, it's like now we're in a space where all of that is like that's the growth of the music, that's the growth of the artistry as well. Because again, it takes the artist, the new artist, also to comply with it. So it can't just be Jay-Z coming back and saying something, and then everybody goes on and do what they wanted to know. It took the whole craft of the culture. Now they all start to cultivate and join in. Like, all right, let me step my pen up and let me talk about what I've been through. Yeah, I used to come from Sunday school on Sundays when I was a kid. So like I can talk about that now where I'm not looked at as a weirdo or a clown or I'm a coon because I'm sharing my previous religious experiences. We can talk now. Like, so I mean, I think that's the major part of the music industry where it's going. Like, I love it. Like, I really do love this.
Yeah, it's dope. Toby can't be the only person, talking that talk. You feel? So is Farajii really God?
Yeah, phone died.
So, Jules, what is
Phone drop like service when you're in the tunnel. We got some comments. Let's read the comments.
Oh, we have comments. All right.
Yep. So, Miss Shell Ray said, "Great, you nailed it with this one." Too, they're all vibing. Hold still to outflow the lyrics against the young rappers. That's true. He can still compete. Yeah. Man, pushing 50, still competing with the young boys.
It's just real. It's just real. As he should. Like I don't believe that you're supposed to mature out of hip. Like it's on us. Like we have to be able to mature with, like together.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to being in my 60s, in my 70s, experiencing what rap has done to the world.
Right. That's what I can't wait for.
It's going to be amazing, like it's going to grow with us, on our terms. And that to me is the most powerful thing about the future because you're not going to be able to separate rap culture from culture.
You know what's so funny to think about what you just said? I can't imagine, like imagine me 60 years old, like at a cookout or family get together, and Amigos Bad and Bougie comes on shuffle. Like, how will I feel about that song 40 years later? Like, it's like that song still goes so hard. Like, that beat is ridiculous. I love the vibe. Like, how am I gonna react at 60 years old and Bad and Bougie is getting played? Like,
well, hopefully we'll still be able to listen and they won't be canceled like our cousin.
Right. Huh. That's facts.
But I think that's dope though. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a part of blackness. Like we hold our moral compass so strong, so real, to where we can love your art, but your art cannot sustain you if you are doing damage to human population, And so it's like that's so necessary, and hip hop is here for it, and Farajii's back.
We got special guests in the building.
Yo.
How you doing today?
We got special guests in the building, live from the West Coast.
All right, then, Jules, you finish. You know what? I'm gonna start doing is bring culture crew members on. Y'all just finish the damn show.
Oh man,
my connection, yo. when you out in the streets, sometimes they don't want you to be great.
No, that's that.
What did J. Khaled used to say? They don't want you to win.
Right? They don't want you to win.
Oh, you gotta have a.
I appreciate y'all. Hey, look, real quick. Yo, why Keenan Petty? He got me on the panelist side. That okay, now he's supposed to be back over to the host side. Keenan, like you coming in as a panelist, dog. And like you're a crew member. I don't know who hosted.
Monday.
Yo, I'm gonna just turn my shit off, bro. I'm just.
Hey, look, listen. Hey, check this out. It's the culture hosted by Farajii.
Just turn it off. Hey, look. Now, real quick. As we wrap up the show, and again, my apologies because my connection went down. But I wanted the big thing that I think that we should stay from this is that, and here's what many people are saying. And Daisy, you said it. You said, nah, you don't mature out. You mature up and start rapping about positive things. And that's where we're going. There has to be a truth. And Daisy, I agree with you 1,000%. At some point, you wanted to learn more. Now, on the rest of Khaled's album, he got like 21 Savage, Lil Durk, and all of the next generation of artists. And they rapping what they do. But you want to show growth. Even even there's a song on the album with Kanye West and Eminem.
Oh my God, that's fire! And it's produced by Dr. Dre.
And Eminem, and you know you got B's favorite client. You're gonna make this funny.
See?
God,
take him away.
I'm here. Jesus is here for Jesus. Understand?
Right. Listen, Keenan said Kanye got him.
Do it.
Kanye listening.
Everywhere, you know. He's trying to broadcast from a Kanye satellite right now. Come on now. That's bigger than rolling.
Oh, this is hilarious. This is the greatest show ever. The greatest show ever.
This is great. So you gonna hold on. I gotta let somebody in the elevator.
Yeah, well, I might as well wrap the show up, man. It's 5.
Oh, well, you know.
I mean, we thank all of our crew members for, thank you for Keenan, thank you for Joel, thank you for B-Fly, for Roger, of course, man, everybody in tune, all our listeners and watchers, Facebook Live, Black Star Network, YouTube. I appreciate all the support. Continue to donate. Please continue to donate. Brother Roland Martin is pushing the campaign. Please continue to donate. Support the Black Star Network. Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. All of them are listed right there on the screen for you. Please tap in. Continue to support. Again, like Farajii said earlier, we're trying to go to 24-hour full streaming. Continue to get that support. We need that 100,000. Continue to support and donate. We appreciate the love. If you can't donate, share it on YouTube, share it on Twitter, your social media, so others can be in tune with what we got going on here. But again, this is the culture on the Black Star Network. Fly, always fly.
Always, remember, can't be Black media and be all right. Can't be Black media and be scared. So yes, donate.
Roland said this.
Let's
That's
go.
us signing out. We love y'all.
Love you. Peace. Culture.
Peace.